We're going to be taking a look at Trilogy Metals. We're going to be joined by Patrick Donnelly. Now, Trilogy Metals is advancing its Upper Kobuk projects, which are in the Ambler mining district of Alaska. And Ambler is home to some of the richest copper-dominant polymetallic deposits in the world. It is a very good jurisdiction to be in. And Patrick Donnelly is the VP of Corporate Communications and Development. He has a broad range of experience in mineral exploration and capital markets, corporate development, and investor relations. He began his career as a project geologist 25 years ago, exploring for precious and base metals and diamonds in Western and Northern Canada. Subsequently, Patrick worked for a Canadian securities firm as a base metals mining analyst. He holds his bachelor's in geology from the UBC and earned his MBA from the University of Toronto. Patrick, welcome to the Northern Miners Global Mining Symposium. How are you and where are you joining us from?
Well, thanks so much, Anthony. I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And yeah, I was at Beaver Creek as well. And it was really nice to see some familiar faces again. And, it's a beautiful setting. And you're right, Jessica does a wonderful job. And we were also at the Denver show as well. And now it's good to be back on the road. Hopefully we can, spend more time in Toronto and New York and other places to talk about our story, because we have a lot going on. And we're looking forward to a great future for the company.
Well, Patrick, that just demonstrates that you're a thoroughly modern individual and you have embraced this whole hybrid model. So you're doing the physical shows and you're doing the virtual shows by being with us on the Global Mining Symposium. And I think that is really the way to go for the time being anyway, having a foot in both of those worlds.
Well, I think you got to find a way to reach out to people, right? So you got to try all the different mediums. I think, the true and tried tested method obviously is to sit down with people, look them in the eye, and tell them your story. But unfortunately, or fortunately, there is technology out there. And, I think also the other historical way is also on the phone. But it's nice also to have this technology where you can still, see people and go through slides and have a really good discussion and answer questions, most importantly, and listen to people.
Yeah, and it does that global audience. I've hit upon it a few times, but we have people tuning in from anywhere between 80 and 100 different countries to these symposiums. So that is, you're not going to get that in a physical setting. So we'll give that check mark over to the virtual. So there's some nice aspects to it. And but listen, I'm rambling on too much. We want to hear more about what Trilogy is up to. So I'm going to pass it over to you, and then I'm going to jump back on with some questions once you're done.
Great, thanks, Anthony.
Good. Thank you.
So yeah, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about Trilogy. I think this is a really exciting story. You can see here, we're not just one metal, but we have the ability to produce a number of metals, but we're mostly copper. But we also have a significant zinc, lead, gold, silver, and got a splash of cobalt. But it's a truly unique story and in a great jurisdiction. So I'm just going to go through the slides here. Forward-looking statements. I'm sure you've seen these before. So just a bit of background, what is Trilogy? And we have some of the highest grade polymetallic mineral deposits in the world. They're very, very high quality. They're located in Alaska, and we're in a good part of Alaska. And we have, a partnership with a very sophisticated, large native corporation, which helps. We also have a partnership with a company called South 32, and North Americans aren't familiar with South 32, but it's a base metal producer based in Australia. They have $11 billion market cap, and they're focused on adding copper to their portfolio, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. We're in the Ambler mining district, and the Ambler district is a volcanic jetic massive sulfide district. And what that means is these type of deposits usually occur in clusters. There's not just one, but there's many of them. And two of the deposits we're focusing on right now is Arctic, which is our flagship asset. We put out a feasibility study just over a year ago, very, very economic, very high grade. And then across the valley from Arctic is bornite. And bornite geologically is a bit of a different beast, but that being said, it's still high grade, it's copper and also cobalt. So we're blessed to have this abundance of very high quality, high grade mineral resources in our project portfolio. Slide 5 here, just a background on our capital structure. At the corporate level, these are all US dollars, by the way. At the corporate level, Trilogy has just over $8 million. And at the joint venture level, which I'll talk about in a minute, we have a joint venture company, 50-50, owned by Trilogy and South32. There's 135 million in cash in that, and our attributable share will be $68 million. So my point is, the joint venture has 3 to 4 years of cash. And the 8 million in Trilogy is simply for keeping the lights on. So we probably have,
Patrick. Patrick,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but we'll make up the time with you. Don't worry about that. We're not seeing a presentation. Should we be seeing a presentation at this point?
Oh, hang on here. Let's try this.
There we go.
Sorry. Let me go back here.
Okay, great. Perfect.
So as I said before, and that's the thing about technology. As I said before, high-grade copper. We're in Alaska, in a good part of Alaska. We have the joint venture with South32, and we're in the Ambler District, volcanogenic massive sulfide district. And the two projects are focusing on Arctic and bornite. Slide 5. At the Trilogy level, 8.4 million in cash US, and the joint venture has over 135 million in cash, and that should last the next 3 or 4 years. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Our market cap's been hovering around 280 to 300 million. We're listed in New York and Toronto. Most of our liquidity is in New York, and we have very strong institutional shareholders. The big three, Electrum, Paulson, and Baupost, they've been in the story since the very beginning, very, very supportive, very long-term, and they've been great. South32, as I mentioned before, the $11 billion base metal producer, they own 11% of our shares, and they're a great company to do business with. So the secret to working in Alaska is having strong partnerships. And obviously having a big brother such as South32 with the financial strength helps as well. And as I said before, they put in 145 million into the joint venture, and we put in our assets. And that was completed in 2020. The joint venture company is called Ambler Metals, and it's based in Anchorage and has its own management team. We have hired Ramsey Fawaz to be the president and CEO of Ambler Metals, and he used to be the VP of operations at Newmont, and he's built numerous mines around the world, and he's surrounded himself with a team of geologists, engineers, community relations people, permitting people. So they're a very, very strong team. They're Alaska based. We also have a native partnership, Nana Corporation, and Nana is a key to this whole thing. Nana owns the Red Dog mine, which is in Alaska. It's the world's largest zinc mine, and Teck is the operator. And so we formed a partnership with Nana in 2011, and they're a multi-billion-dollar native corporation. So, you know, when you want to get things done in Alaska, I think it helps to have a strong native partnership. And the nice thing is, because of their experience of Red Dog, they understand mining. They've made a lot of money off of Red Dog. 50% of the employees at the Red Dog mine are indigenous. They're Nup'ik Eskimo. So again, they get it, they see it, they understand mining, and Teck has always been a very good corporate citizen in Alaska. And then thirdly, the state of Alaska. And that's key as well. These projects, they're economic, which I'll talk about in a minute. And that's never been the issue. Most mining projects you see out there need either a higher metal price, or there's technical issues or metallurgical issues. In our case, the reason these projects have never been developed is because they're in the middle of nowhere. And so just last year, the Bureau of Land Management issued a permit for a 211-mile road. And now, right now, ADA is working on the engineering work for this road, and they'll connect us to the Dalton Highway. As you can see here, this is where the projected road would be, 211 miles. And what's really interesting, you can see the Red Dog mine here, as I mentioned a minute ago, which is the world's largest zinc mine. It's operated by Teck and owned by Nana. And that mine is also very remote. And what's really interesting is a group called ADA, the Alaska Industrial Development Export Authority. It's an infrastructure bank owned by the state of Alaska, and its mandate is to permit, finance, and build infrastructure to support resource extraction in Alaska. In the late 1980s, they permitted, they financed, and built a road and port for the Red Dog mine, and they financed it with debt in the public markets, and the state backed the debt, so they had low cost of capital. And that's what we're looking for here, where the state will We'll finance and build this road, and then we'll pay a toll to cover the principal and the interest on the debt backing this road. And what's really interesting, again, reverting back to Red Dog, that road and port, the debt on that and the toll had a zinc escalator on that. So when zinc prices went up, the toll went up, and they paid off that debt years ago. And now it generates $20 million a year in free cash flow for that mine. So we're looking at a similar situation for our road, and it would go to the east as opposed to the west. The reason being is less environmental impact. And also we can ship our concentrates all year round. We'd ship them down to Fairbanks and then rail them to Anchorage. And that's open all year round. Whereas the Red Dog port is only open 3 months a year because the other 9 months it's frozen. So again, the state's moving ahead on that. ADA's budgeted $70 million for the engineering for the road. Ambler Metals will pay for half of that. And so it's a win-win for everybody. It'll create jobs, it'll open up the area, and most importantly, it'll improve and enhance the livelihood of the Native peoples in the area through jobs, economic employment, and also access to infrastructure. Okay, let's talk about the fun stuff. And as Andrew mentioned, I'm a geologist by background, so this is what really gets me exciting. We're in the Ambler district, which is a volcanogenic massive sulfide district, very analogous to what you see at Flin Flon, where you get numerous high-grade deposits of copper, lead, zinc, gold, and silver mineralization. And as I said before, the two flagships are Arctic and Bornite, and you can see there's numerous other deposits in the area. We put out a feasibility study in 2020 on Arctic. Very, very economic. We assumed a long-term copper price of $3. Right now it's at $4, just over $4. Initial capital cost just over $900 million. And if you look at most copper projects, they tend to be low-grade, bulk tonnage deposits. You know, the average grade of a porphyry, which is these bulk tonnage copper deposits, about 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. This is an order of magnitude greater. And so we don't need billions and billions and billions of dollars to build this thing. It's 900 million. Again, these are all US numbers. After-tax net present value is over $1.1 billion. Cash costs, lowest in the industry or close to that, 32 cents, net of byproduct credits. The all-in cost, so capital, operating costs, closure, everything is just under $1. So this thing is very, very economic. This is on a 100% basis. So I would assume 50% of that would go to Trilogy and the other 50% would go to South 32. Now on September 16th, let's use spot prices. And again, this thing really, really gets cranked up. Your after-tax net present value is $2.3 billion. Cash costs are the negative numbers, all-in cost 44 cents. So as I said before, it's very, very economic. And even if you don't like copper, if you think copper is going to be $2 or $2.50, this thing is very, very economic. So that's why South 32 is very intrigued in this asset. We're going to produce concentrate, specifically 3 concentrates. Got a copper con, a zinc con, and what we call a precious metals con. It's really a lead con, but most of the value is in the precious metals. And you can see here, percentage of our revenue is about 60% copper, 26% zinc, and then we have about 13% precious metals. So this is really nice. It gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of how we want to finance our share of the capital for the project. We've had a lot of inquiries from the royalty companies and streamers. We can kick out the precious metals and probably pay for a good chunk of the capital. So that's the nice thing about being polymetallic. It gives you a lot of optionality, a lot of exposure to different metals, but at the same time, the primary metal is copper. And I don't have to, I think the market, or I think this audience is pretty sophisticated, and I'm sure they all have a positive view on copper and given, you know, why we need more copper to save the planet. And that's another discussion. So in the mine permitting process, we're located on state and private land, not federal land. And that's really important when permitting the United States. And we're going to start permitting Arctic by the end of the year. And we think it'll take 24 to 30 months to permit. And then once that's completed, it'll be about a 3-year build. So we're projecting operations around 2027, 2028. And so we'll put out news on the permitting coming up probably in the next couple of months. And the Army Corps of Engineers is expected to be the lead agency. And we only need 1 federal permit. That'd be the 404 wetlands permit that's issued by the Army Corps of Engineers. All the other permits are issued by the state and also the local government. So that's the good thing about being on state land as opposed to federal land. Again, slide 13 here, we like to describe our exploration upside as pearls on a string, where we have numerous high-grade deposits, drill holes, showings, outcrops, and other anomalies. So we did some drilling this summer. We didn't quite hit our goal in terms of drilling. It's been a tough year to get drillers. And also, we had really difficult weather this summer. It's kind of funny, Vancouver went through a severe drought this summer. And then when I went up to Alaska this summer, I realized where all the rain went. But that being said, we're moving things forward. And we're very, very excited about these drilling results. And we'll start having drilling results coming out this fall. Let's talk about bornite. And bornite's a different animal. Let me just flip back to slide 13. Here's bornite. In itself, very remarkable, as open pit resources of about 125 million tons at 1% and about 60 million tons at 3%. And bornite's a bit of a different beast. It's not a volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit, and yet it's only located 25 kilometers from Arctic. Bornite's a carbonate hosted style deposit. It's more similar to what you see in the African copper belt. And this actually was a project that originally attracted South 32. And we originally had an earning agreement with them before we formed the joint venture. They put in $31 million into this. And it's still open at depth, still very, very high grade, and also has quite a bit of cobalt in it. And we're still working on the metallurgy for the cobalt, so we don't know whether it's recoverable or not. But that being said, cobalt is a critical metal. It's been designated a critical metal by the United States government. And obviously, we want to have a green future. We need cobalt. And most of the world's cobalt comes from conflict zones. So this will be a safe source of cobalt. So we do want to go back to bornite. It's just we have such a plethora of high quality assets. We can't do everything at once. But the goal is to go back next year and do more work with bornite. So again, just getting close to wrapping this thing up. As I said before, we own not just a single deposit, we own a district. And that's why South 32 came in. And here are other VMS districts in the world. Obviously, most of this audience would probably know Flin Flon in northern Manitoba. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's also VMS, and there's still fine deposits there. Noranda district in Quebec, 85 years of production. And that's what we think we have here at the Ambler Mining District. Numerous deposits, very high grade. And like I said before, if this thing had a road, it would have been developed decades ago. And now we see the light at the end of the tunnel in regards to infrastructure. The state is very, very supportive. Just as an aside, you know, Alaska, people think of Alaska, they think about the oil and gas industry. And even before COVID, oil and gas prices really impacted the Alaska economy. And so the governor of Alaska and both senators, Lisa Murkowski and Dan Sullivan, are very supportive of mining because they view that as one way to diversify the economy. And that's why we have very, very good support at the state level. So again, it's a mining district and it'll be around for a long time. And again, it's very high grade. So just to wrap things up, we have a lot of news flow coming up. We're optimizing the feasibility study we did last year. That's in the hands of Ambler Metals. We're hoping to get assay results coming up pretty soon from the summer program. And then we're going to start permitting the Arctic project. And we'll start that before the end of the year. So again, lots going on here. As I said before, we're well financed, lots of capital, strong partners in Alaska, with the state of Alaska, NANA, and South 32. And our goal is to move this thing forward and create value for our shareholders. The share price right now is at $1.90 US. 52-week high was just over $3. 52-week low was about $1.50. And as I said before, we're listed in New York and Toronto, and most of our liquidity is in New York, but you could still get stock in on the TSX. So I'll wrap that up and open up the floor for questions.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Patrick. All right. We have a question here from Maddie, picking up on the whole infrastructure piece, which is really key. I'm excited about the road, but with global warming, does the port project, would it be open more than 3 months out of the year going forward? And what's the timeline there? The road is no doubt still worthwhile, but just wondering about how much changing climate, Arctic accessibility has to be factored in.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't heard that one before. Yeah, I'm sure the shipping season would be extended, but I don't think we're going to see, you know, all year round access if we did go to the west. The other issue is if we did go to the west, you're dealing with more sensitive ground. So in Alaska, in terms of permitting, the big hurdle is how much wetlands do you impact? And one of the reasons why we're going to the east as opposed to the west, because if you go to the east, we're staying in the foothills of the Ambler of the Brooks Range and staying out of wetlands. If you go to the west, you're encountering more wetlands, therefore more fish, and also there's a major caribou herd going through the western side, and also there's a number of parks in that area as well. So I think it'd be very difficult to permit. Whereas by going to the east, you're avoiding caribou, you're avoiding wetlands, and less environmental impact. And again, all your access. So that's the rationale for that. But that's a good question.
Okay, super. Okay, where else are we here? What about the strength and diversity of experience on your board and management team? You touched upon it a little bit, but maybe highlight a few more of the kind of, that's always a key criteria for our investor delegates that are on the show. That's
a great question. You know, we have a very, very strong, diverse board. Our chairperson is Janice Stairs, who's based in Halifax. One of our board members is Kalidas Matapevi, who's the chairman of Glencore. And so he's no slouch. Another board member, the gentleman who's very well known in Alaska, his name is Willie Hensley. And Willie Hensley is an indigenous Alaskan. He's from the Nana area. He was one of the co-founders of Nana. Matter of fact, he was one of the founders of the Alaska Land Claim Settlement Act. And so it's interesting, Alaska is a little bit different from the rest of the US, where they settled their land claims in 1972. So we have Willie on the board. We also have Greg Lang, who's CEO and president of Nova Gold. We have Bill Hayden, who's with Ivanhoe. And we have Diane Walters, who's very well known in the mining sector. So in terms of, you know, ethnic background, gender, technical background, markets background is very, very, very diverse, and a very, very strong team. And they're great to work with, and they certainly know their stuff.
Fantastic. All right, Patrick, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. It's an exciting project to follow, and you don't often see this kind of district scale play, especially on a commodity like copper in such a politically safe jurisdiction. So this is one we'll follow closely going forward. Thank you for joining us on the symposium, and we wish you a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And if people want to get a hold of me, they can reach me at patrick.donnelly@trilogymetals.com, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about Trilogy or just mining in general. I've been in this racket for over 30 years, since the early 1990s, so I'm more than willing to give my thoughts and opinions if anybody has any questions. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Fantastic. That's great, Patrick. So you got his email address there, and if anyone missed that, just reach out to Laura, and Laura can put you in touch with Patrick. Thank you.
All right, take care. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye-bye.